Hey everybody, what's up? I'm Don Carr, here with another round of What's on Your Pedalboard. Today I'm with Ryan Holquist. Hey Ryan.
Hey Don, how's it going?
Good man, glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah man. So Ryan, you're a sales engineer here at Sweetwater, and so you see gear all day long, constantly dealing with it. It's always unique to me to find out what you pick, what you use, what works for you, because that's really what ultimately this is about, is what works for you.
Yeah, I see a lot, and it can be overwhelming, the options. So
Yeah.
sometimes it is fun to spend my day sort of personal shopping here and there.
Yeah.
By way of helping others. So.
Right. Yeah, that's another interesting thing too, is that when you're talking to somebody else, you're in the back of your mind, you're somewhere going, I wonder if that would be good for me or not. You know?
Yeah, and I have to make a conscious decision when we learn about a new thing, not to dismiss it just because it's not my thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Never even thought about that. Okay, well, cool. So talking about your pedal board here, let's start at your signal flow. What's your first input?
It's the JHS stutter switch.
Nice.
Which I use a little bit. It's kind of just a convenient input. You can move it where you want, and it's kind of fun, but it's passive, so the little bit I use it doesn't eat up any power or cause any noise or anything. So.
Right. Yeah, and it's a fun kind of trick to have occasionally,
Yeah, you don't want to use it too much.
Right. Like every other magic trick, don't overdo it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then into
into the MXR compressor.
Oh, okay.
The tuner's just coming out of the tuner output of the volume pedal.
Okay, nice.
Into the compressor, which I have set pretty tame, just to give it a little sustain and boost.
Yeah.
A little clarity, but nothing too. I don't really chicken pick or anything, so it's pretty mild. Then it's into the Fairfield Circuitry Barbershop.
Nice.
It's an overdrive, has a sag knob, which I kind of usually saturate pretty much all the way to kind of soften the blow of some of the notes that I play.
Yeah.
I don't really use it for like an amp style sag as much as just sort of taking the front off of some notes.
Right. Kind of the same thing you're doing with the compressor, just kind of like even out the attack. And
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. And then I go into an H9, which, for as versatile as that is, I have about 2 settings programmed on this that I toggle between.
Yeah.
90% of the time it's a whammy setting, essentially.
Yeah.
So 1 octave up, polyphonic.
Cool.
And occasionally alternate between like a reverse delay or something for a couple specific sections of specific songs. But for the most part, that's my smaller whammy.
Oh, okay.
I never really use the expression on a whammy too much, so I'm probably underutilizing that pedal, but...
But that's the beauty of it, though. I mean, it really does a lot, but it can kind of be a Swiss Army knife, too. So it's like, this is the one specific sound that I need, so I'm going to use it for that.
Yeah.
And there, again, for all the firepower, it's not that big of a pedal either.
Well, this is a snapshot of a Pedalboard summer 2020, so
that'll
end up somewhere else
doing
some other time.
Else,
and so it's super flexible.
Right.
From there into the Jackson Audio Golden Boy, which is the newest addition to the pedalboard.
Golden Boy.
Again, I'm probably underutilizing that. It's MIDI controllable.
Yeah.
Both the drive and the boost, so I could go crazy with that, but I kind of went through the modes. That's probably the most, out of the 3 dirt pedals, that's definitely the most standard overdrive, hinting at distortion, but not quite there.
Yeah.
And the boost is very clean, just level boost.
Right.
But
a lot of with something like that, I tend to find, even for myself, that you find the sound or sounds that you like the most, and you just kind of hang there. It's nice to have all the options, but for the most part, you're going to find the one that works for you. You know?
Yeah, and that's kind of how my brain works. We'll get there in
Yeah.
a couple pedals, but I've never really. I've played around with some of the larger Strymon and Eventide pedals, and
Yeah.
at the very least, I just feel like I'm wasting them because I find those one or two settings, and if I were touring or were a studio player
Right.
or something, I would
Yeah.
probably utilize those more in their
Yeah.
variety, but I just kind of set it and leave it.
Well, yeah, and that's the whole point. I mean, like, okay, so a little extra background on you is that you're a drummer and a guitar player and a songwriter, so that encompasses a lot, and this board is a little more purpose-driven for your band, right? The March On Comrade is your band, and you're kind of making sounds for that band.
Yeah, I have it set up in a way that, again, we'll get there shortly, but there's kind of some alternating and staggering bookending of types of pedals.
Yeah.
That I can get sort of the sounds that tend to pop into my head.
Yeah.
The band's pretty collaborative, so being able to not have to dig through menus to find or to even just change a delay time or something.
Right.
At most, I bend over and change a gain knob, but
Sure.
for the most part, everything's sort of purpose set, so that whether it's on stage or trying to quickly come up with things and
Right, because you guys, like you said, collaborative, so in the songwriting process, the last thing you want to be is like, wait a minute, guys, hold on to that idea. I'm going to get down here and open the owner's manual and dig through the menu.
or get out my phone and
Right.
use the H9 app, which is amazing technology.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a buzzkill.
It can be a little cumbersome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. When in that moment.
Yeah.
In that moment.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but
All good. From the Golden Boy, I guess on that one, that is, like I said, the newest edition.
yeah.
Their stuff is kind of a Pandora's box, it seems like,
Yeah.
because it lets you do a lot with a deceivingly small package. So
Right.
I've had that for about a week, so I can't say I've finished exploring it yet.
Yeah.
So that'll probably change by next week, the settings as well. So, and then it's into the Earthquaker Black Ash Fuzz, which is discontinued. I think it was limited or
Yeah.
somewhat.
Yeah.
That's set pretty mild. I'm not really an octave fuzz, don't play that kind of stuff very much,
Right.
so that is set mostly for sustain as well. Not to drop the name, but Steve Hackett, to get a
Sure.
big fuzz sustain, almost
Sure.
violin-y
Yeah.
thing, especially into the reverbs.
Yeah, I mean, because what you're doing is a lot of texture, and so having all these different, I mean, it's like, it's like a palette. I mean, it's just color palette, basically.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a great sounding pedal. Really is.
Yep. And then I go into the freeze. I don't use that a lot, mostly for like a bed in between songs in a live set or something. It's sort of in place of a looper,
Right.
like something I don't use often, but occasionally if I'm trying to figure out a harmony or something, I'll over a chord. I'll
Right.
just let it hang, but
Right.
for the most part, it's just an effect. And then the freeze sends into my volume pedal. So if I do want to manipulate half the time I just
Yeah.
and freeze that and just
Right.
mangle it in between
Right.
songs.
Right.
So yeah, then into the volume pedal. And from there, it goes to the Old Blood Noise Dweller,
Okay.
which is they use a clever term for it, but it's sort of a phaser, delay, tremolo, interactive thing. Super unique. It's kind of on par with a lot of the like the Earthquaker and Walrus things, that the range is super wide.
Yeah.
That you can set it to where you barely notice it, to where, or between there and getting fired from the
Yeah.
gig. So the way I have that set currently is just from the last time I was trying to hear things.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Right.
but that's kind of a rotating spot on the pedal board for me, where there's just something if I want to play around, get something different that's not just a delay or a reverb or.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, because that's sort of modulation in terms of like just motion in general, but to be that specific. Okay, all right, we got to hear that. So we got to know where you're set with that right now. What was your last settings? Let's
All right.
give us a taste of that.
Pretty mild,
Yeah, yeah.
but it'll. See,
Yeah.
you don't want to do that for too long.
Right.
And I just arbitrarily twisted knobs there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I didn't go from 0 to 10 on those knobs. I went from 4 to 6 on them, and it ran away. So
Yeah, yeah, which is pretty cool because it's like again like in that kind of Earthquaker vibe where it's like just turn the knobs and see what happens. Oh, that's cool.
yeah. Which again, if I were on tour, playing arenas night after night, that would probably be that type of thing would probably not have a place on there. But from a creative standpoint, I love. As you said, I'm a drummer, so I played drums since I was, I think, 7, and I played guitar since I was a teenager, but
Yeah.
I've never been able to shred or. So it's really just about finding interesting sounds within my music theory knowledge.
Right.
So, from a creative standpoint, if my fingers won't move, at least that'll
That'll
do
move
something
you.
for me. Yeah. But you got to be smart enough to not abuse it, or you'll
Yeah.
be playing by yourself in your basement all the time.
I think the word is discernment. I
Right.
think that's what we're looking for here.
Yeah, social skills.
Yeah.
So yeah, from there it's into the Ibanez 89 delay, which was my first pedal ever.
Ah, nice, man.
Super smooth, classic analog delay. That is long discontinued.
Yeah.
I don't know what era that is, or I don't get into the vintage thing too much, but 80s.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. Just by looking at it, like from the font and from the, I don't know, there's probably somebody out there in the interwebs that can tell us exactly what that is. But yeah, that's like an 80s, yeah, I'd say.
Yeah. But, I mean, like the Boss Waza delay, or
sure.
even a carbon copy or something.
Yeah.
Just a classic.
Right.
I've set that set. So I guess we're getting to that point. I've got that 89 set pretty much the same all the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's just kind of a very standard. So quiet repeats, not super long, not super short. Just give it some
depth.
some space. Yeah.
Yeah. That, man, to me, that's the greatest thing about analog delay is that almost no matter how you set it, it gets out of your way.
Yeah.
You know, a really good analog delay.
Yeah.
So.
And you can make that go a little crazy, but again, I have that set to do one thing.
Right.
By now I'd know the look of the settings, so if they get bumped, I change them back.
Right.
So again, that's probably more flexible than I give it credit for, but I have it set to do one thing, which is just like it's like tools in a closet.
Yeah.
That, you know. Only this hammer doesn't have the thing to pull out the nails on the end. I use a different hammer for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So from there, I go into the Red Panda Context reverb, which I think is a great sounding reverb, kind of on par with like a Boss RV6 or something with a lot of modes.
Yeah.
Really clean, potential to be pretty ambient.
Yeah. I see you've got a cathedral setting dialed up.
Yeah. Yeah, so the cathedral setting with pretty moderate decay. And unless I'm playing a lead part, which again is never very shreddy, it's usually a line, that's usually on.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I usually play into a twin that has reverb set pretty modestly, and I usually leave that on. So then I get into this thing of cascading delay into reverb, and then into a Boss DD7 delay.
Right, which is like the total opposite. It's
Right.
the super clean digital thing.
Yep, and I have it set to, just digital delay, tap tempo.
Yeah.
Pretty. So nothing too U2-ish,
Right.
but still very definite, very digital.
Yeah, and nice to have the tap with the digital because because you get the clean repeats, so you want those in time if you can help it.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's not uncommon for me to cascade them all together to get this washy thing.
Right.
Again, you don't want to do that all the time,
Yeah.
but
Full on cacophony.
yeah. I mean, again, filling a lot of space with 3 or 4 notes.
Yeah.
That has me all over it. Next is the Caroline Guitar Company Kilobyte delay. Again, I have it set to pretty much one thing.
Yeah.
Definitely my theme. They're an interesting company. They've got a Havoc switch on everything they do, which basically, depending on the pedal, makes it freak out in some way. So I use this for kind of a self-oscillation effect.
Yeah.
But then it ends.
Right, immediately goes away. That's cool. So
Yeah.
like if you want to build up to a big break or the end of a song or something, that's nice,
Yeah.
man.
Or at the end of something.
Right.
Again, if there's every overdrive's on, the boost's on, I still need somehow more attention on myself, I'll make that freak out.
With the same single note.
Yeah, yeah.
With your one note.
Yeah, watch my feet.
That's cool, man.
Then into the Strymon Blue Sky, which I had a big sky for a while, and again, felt like I was just underutilizing what it can do.
Yeah.
Had it sort of banking between 2 settings, so
Right.
this is
Perfect.
essentially that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So again, I have the context set to be pretty always on, appropriate, and
Right.
then the Blue Sky is a little more extreme, with more of a wash. And then the favorite switch, half the time the favorite is on, just waiting to be engaged. So pretty
Yeah.
long. I do a lot of swells, and especially if you've got a couple delays and reverbs. And something about the Strymon is just clean enough that the tails don't get in the way.
Yeah.
So having that on the end, after enough repeats and reverbs, still keeps it clean.
Right. But when you do that, when you stack that much stuff, it's got so much character to it. Just the sound itself, like just the tail, it's like, whoa. I mean, there's just a lot of character in it.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to, more notes would get lost.
Sure.
But I mean, the band I play in is pretty ambient post-rock
Yeah.
stuff, so
So yeah, it works out perfect.
it works great, yeah. And then at the very end, I've got another Caroline Guitar Company Parabola, which is a solid-state tremolo. It's super choppy, so that whatever mess I have going on before it, it'll just... and on that one, this switch, the Havoc switch, has been modified to double the tremolo speed. So, which again gives an interesting texture to a couple notes.
Yeah. Completely. Well, and that's great having it on the end too, because again, if you've got it set pretty choppy, it'll, even though the tails and the trails and everything are still ringing through, you can hear the clear, the clear chop of the tremolo.
Yeah, and again, I play with through a twin that has tremolo in it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can get the more classic tremolo
Yeah.
if I want it, but generally that a little more outlandish is what I'm going for.
Well, and again, that's going to cut through. And if you've got a bigger band and you guys are all doing a lot, I mean, it can get pretty thick, I'm sure. And so having something like that really helps it stand out.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's set to pretty much the same thing. Everything, I never really bend over to tweak anything during a live set.
Nice.
Even writing and rehearsing, I don't do too much. Again, maybe a gain knob.
Right.
But just enough individual tools that different combinations combined with they're kind of built from the outside in. Choppy tremolo with choppy stutter switch.
Yeah.
And then even dirt into the whammy.
Yeah.
So you get a different flavor of the whammy depending if
you're
put dirt before or after it.
Yeah.
Then cascade of reverbs and delays with, I guess, extreme on the very end, but that's kind of how you need it.
Yeah, yeah. Man, it's always so interesting to me to see how people think about their setup and why they have a certain setup. Because if you maybe just took a picture of that, a snapshot, you might kind of, somebody that doesn't know the context might go, huh, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and explaining it that way, it makes total sense. And just hearing how you use it, and again, knowing that you're using it in a band context.
Yeah, and talking to people about gear all day.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of has their own mindset that makes complete sense to them. If I gave you these pedals, you would likely do something completely different with them.
Sure.
And you'd sound like you playing it. So it really, we sell things, but it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, because
you're trying, because it's interesting. I can only imagine from a sales standpoint, you're trying to help people figure out what it is they need to get what they want.
Yeah.
That's really the key. That's what taking a look at somebody's pedal board specifically is. It's like, okay, you're making the sounds that you're making. How do you get there, and why did you choose those? And you know, what is it?
It's kind of like half what the tool is,
right,
and half unlocking your brain's path to getting there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's obviously the physical navigation, the tap dancing and all that, which is unavoidable. I could go to a MIDI rig, but then I'd be bending over to tweak stuff all the time.
And for you, again, for workflow, man, you've minimized that to where all you're doing is you're turning one off and turning one on at a time. You're not like trying to get 9 pedals at once. It's like, I wish I had 3 more feet. I could do this. It's like, no, you've just got it. You've got everything in a very logical row that makes sense for the way you're doing things. Ryan, thanks so much for being here, man. Really appreciate having a look into your workflow and your system here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, man. Thanks for watching.